The cover story of tomorrow's NY Times Magazine, more American teenagers than ever are suffering from severe anxiety, is this week's most read story on nighttimes.com. What's new over the last decade? Anxiety has overtaken depression as the most common reason college students seek counseling services. Key stat: in 1985, the Higher Education Research Institute at UCLA began asking incoming college freshmen if they felt overwhelmed by all I had to do during the previous year. In 1985, 18% said they did. By 2010, that number had increased to 29%. Last year, it surged to 41%. Why it matters: hospital admissions for suicidal teenagers doubled over the last 10 years, with the highest rates occurring soon after they return to school each fall. High school administrators across the country report a glut of anxious, overwhelmed students. Inmates serving time for nonviolent crimes in California make up 35 to 40% of the firefighting force, according to the Daily Beast. Getting paid $1 an hour, the convict crew is comprised of those who volunteer. Bill Sessa, spokesman for the California Department of Correction and Rehabilitation, said there were 1,700 inmates fighting fires on Friday alone. Inmate Joshua Coover, who helped fight fires in 2015, told the Easy Bay Times, "The best feeling is when we get off the fire, all the signs you see that say thank you, firefighters. They even refer to us as the angels in orange." Why it matters: the inmates are working the same hours as professional firefighters, and Sessa told the Daily Beast that $1 an hour is the highest paying job for a California inmate and has rehabilitative value. Mekelle Vinson, a bank teller in Washington, sued her bank's branch manager, Sidney L. Taylor, in 1978 for repeatedly sexually assaulting her, leading to a landmark Supreme Court case that redefined sexual harassment in the workplace, according to a Washington Post report. Vinson told the Post in 1986 that Taylor threatened to fire her if she refused to sleep with him. He also assaulted her in front of other employees, and forcibly raped her on several occasions. A U.S. district judge said Vinson had not suffered job discrimination. A U.S. Court of Appeals reversed that, saying women did not have to prove discrimination to prove they had been sexually harassed. The Supreme Court ruled in a unanimous decision that sexual harassment violated federal laws against discrimination. Why it matters: this set the tone for workplace sexual harassment. For the first time, sexual harassment was an illegal form of discrimination. Why it matters: healthcare specialists predict this $7 billion cut will trigger a destabilizing cascade that will jeopardize healthcare access for millions of Americans, as insurance companies jack up premiums or pull out of the federal exchanges altogether. The step also heightens the risk that Republicans will be blamed for higher costs and other market disruptions stemming from Trump's administrative assaults on the healthcare law. What's Next polling indicates that Americans, including many Republicans, will indeed point the finger at the GOP. 60% of Americans say they view Republicans as responsible for problems in the health law moving forward, according to an August survey by the nonprofit Kaiser Family Foundation. How it's playing. LA Times 2-column lead: Trump move threatens to deliver chaos to healthcare. Insurance markets are expected to raise premiums sharply after key cost-sharing subsidies are blocked. 2. Undoing Obama. CNN: a deferred action for childhood arrivals program. The Paris Climate Accords. The Iran nuclear deal, transgender people serving in the military, and, now, that most personal of policies for the former president, the Affordable Care Act. NY Times: Peter Baker, in front-page White House memo noting that Obama took the same route when stymied by Congress. Trump is turning to executive power to accomplish what lawmakers will not, in this case erasing the legacy of the Obama years. Quote of the week: Life of Ryan. Speaker Paul Ryan to MSNBC's Casey Hunt, about Trump attacks on GOP lawmakers: "It's what he does. We've kind of learned to live with it. How it's playing." Bloomberg's Nick Wadhams and Margaret Taylor: "The risk of failure is enormous for Donald Trump's Iran strategy." Why it matters: since their inception, these companies have made lofty claims about rider-hailing's environmental benefits, including reducing car ownership. They've also used these arguments when persuading regulators to permit their operations. This study and others shows that it's likely not the case at all. Dorsey tweeted at 10:35 p.m. ET: "We see voices being silenced on Twitter every day. We've been working to counteract this for the past 2 years. We prioritized this in 2016. We updated our policies and increased the size of our teams. It wasn't enough. We decided Friday to take a more aggressive stance. New rules around unwanted sexual advances, non-consensual nudity, hate symbols, violent groups, and tweets that glorifies violence. These changes will start rolling out in the next few weeks. More to share next week. And Twitter finally coughs up more for Hill. Twitter this week handed over to Senate investigators the profile names, or handles, of 201 accounts linked to Russian attempts at influencing the election. AP's Ryan Nakashima reports from Menlo Park the company has stepped up its efforts to cooperate with investigators after it was criticized for not taking congressional probes seriously enough. The account handles previously hadn't been submitted in part due to legal privacy issues. Twitter is set to appear November 1 before the Senate Intelligence Committee at a public hearing with Facebook and Google. Twitter said it had suspended 22 accounts that pushed divisive social or political issues during the 2016 campaign. It found another 179 related or linked accounts and took action against those that violated its spam rules. Be smart. Twitter is following the pattern Facebook did, grudgingly turning over piecemeal data, only after lawmakers express impatience and dissatisfaction. The reticence has raised suspicions in Congress about what else the tech companies know, and increased the appetite for further regulation. Senator Bob Corker told The Washington Post on Friday that one of his biggest concerns is Trump's treatment of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson in inviting binary situations in which the United States will have to choose between war under North Korea or Iran capable of threatening the United States with nuclear weapons. He said the U.S. has good diplomatic relations with China, but it's being threatened by Trump's behavior. When you jack the legs out from under your chief diplomat, you cause all that to fall apart. When you publicly castrate your Secretary of State, you take that off the table. Bottom line, Corker, a senior Republican senator, continues his public campaign against Trump. The team of special counsel Robert Mueller today interviewed former Trump chief of staff Reince Priebus, Politico reported. Mueller is expected to interview other Trump aides like Chief Counsel Don McGahn and Communications Director Hope Hicks. A lawyer for Priebus told Politico that Priebus was interviewed voluntarily and was happy to answer all of their questions. Why this matters: as Chief of Staff, Priebus was central to many of the Trump actions Mueller is probing, like the firing of FBI Director James Comey and interactions with Russian officials.